Okay, sorry about that. We had a bit of a glitch, and it happens. I'm a sales guy. I'm a business guy. I'm not a sound guy. So, yeah, I had a glitch, which means I hit that button and I was supposed to hit that button twice and, whatever. So here I am and here you are. And thank you everyone for joining me again on The Venue on Wednesday at 5 o'clock, probably 5:03 now. And again, I apologize for being a bit late. I'm pretty excited about today, and I am going to be bringing on a relatively new friend of mine. I mean, I've known most of the people who have been on this thing, which started as a 60 some odd week Zoom call and became, since that time, a weekly live stream called The Venue. And so I've known most of the people who follow this, who have been on it, who watch it for, up to 20 or 30 years, some even more than that, God forbid. But this gentleman who I'm bringing on with me today as a co-host slash guest is a gentleman named Nick Strand, who I became friends with last year at some point during this whole thing, which I don't even want to say pandemic. But, we became friends because how the heck did I even find him? I don't even remember. Maybe Nick will remind me that when I bring him on. But we became friends last year because we connected about his brand. And so, Nick has such an incredible story, and a sad story, but a positive story, and something that I think is just so influential and inspiring to other people. He lost his mother, which I know many people listening have probably also lost their mother. It's a devastating thing. Thank God my mom is still alive. And he lost his mom in 2012. He lost his wife of 10 years, very young lady, Brianna, in 2017. Very inspirational young lady. I've learned a lot about her in the past 8 or 12 months or whatever it's been. Lost her to cystic fibrosis, which of course is a disease that young people get and unfortunately don't typically, I don't think ever, live to be old. They usually don't live to 20 years old, I don't think. And I think modern science has got it to where they can live into their late 20s at times. But Brianna was a very special lady. She really came up with a lot of the things that we're going to talk about today. Then in 2019, a weird thing happened. One day he woke up, he thought he had a stroke. He just basically half his face was paralyzed and was scared to death, had no idea what this was coping with, just trying to figure this out and assuming that he had a stroke. And he learned that it was, I think it's called Bell palsy, and has pretty much almost completely recovered today, other than, the fact that you'll hear him stutter every once in a while. I'm just joking. No, he's pretty much recovered. He's as normal as any of us right now. So not that having any kind of a defect is abnormal or anything, but so it just felt like he kept getting punched in the face, and then all of a sudden COVID happened. And so Nick is also a touring guy, like many people who come on this show and who listen to it and who are part of this community. Nick is a touring guy. He was out on tour with the Dave Matthews Band. He's a video tech, a very good one, from what I understand from mutual friends that we have. And everyone who's reached out to me when I announced doing this show said, "Oh my God, Nick's an amazing guy. Where is he? I need a tech." So, all of these things kept happening to him. And I think Nick just started feeling like, oh my God, this guy is falling. My world is shit. Nothing's ever going to be good. And somehow he came up with the inspiration to pivot and start this brand that we're going to talk about today. So, as they say, without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and bring on my friend and co-host today, Nick. If you could do me a favor and just move
Hello.
to
Yeah.
the middle of your screen, because the way that
Okay.
it splits the screens on this
Yep.
thing, you end up disappearing. Uh,
Yeah, I see it.
so here we have
Yeah.
Nick Strand, or Nicholas Strand, as he's got on his screen right now. And so welcome, Nick. Thanks for coming on
Thank
and
you.
for joining us
Appreciate it.
today.
Love your
Yes.
shirt.
There you go, folks. I'm representing.
I
So,
love it.
oh, look at us. We didn't even talk
Right?
about this. Yeah, that's pretty funny. This is
What are
actually
the
my
odds?
least favorite shirt. I like the one with choose your attitude down the side. I have that in multiple colors and wear them at least once a week. I've got a choose your
It's
attitude shirt on.
it's funny you say that, because that's one of the next things I'm doing, is working on other shirts with different designs that aren't so in your face poignant like this. But
You know what though?
exactly.
Sometimes I like this
Hey,
one. Sometimes I love going out with this shirt on and people go,
everyone's got
"Yeah."
a different attitude. Exactly.
Yeah, yeah. But you know what though? I mean, to be perfectly honest, and I don't want this to sound like any kind of an infomercial or anything. I'm friends with you because your brand drew me in. That was first and
Yeah.
foremost. So I went, wow, a touring guy with this cool pivot with this unbelievable brand. So I think I wrote you a note or something and just said,
Yeah.
Nick, I love what you're doing. Keep it up. And
Yep.
you reached out to me and we hit it off and became friends, and I helped you through some of your challenges that you were working through and some of that
Huge.
stuff. Yeah. But again, the bottom line for me, whether or not we're friends, and by the way, just to be perfectly clear, and Nick is here so he can confirm this,
Yep.
all of the shirts that I've bought from Nick, I've paid full price. I haven't
Oh
even used
yeah.
discount
Oh yeah.
codes or nothing.
Yep.
So, and I will continue to, because they're comfortable shirts. I like them. I feel good when I put this logo on for some reason. Where's the logo? Here it is. No. Oh, there's no logo on the sleeve on this
It's on
version.
the nope. It's on the back.
Oh, it's on the back. Oh yeah,
Yep.
the butterfly logo. But no, I mean, something about just choose your attitude. And, I've always been that guy who, I got punched in the face a lot when I was young, and, I've got all the disadvantages that you could possibly ask for. But this ain't about me, and I don't really want to talk about me. But, it's a brand that I can relate to because I was an overachiever. I had none of the advantages. I didn't have a rich dad. I didn't have any network growing up. I grew up in the worst neighborhood in a pretty easy city, Calgary, Canada. But, if I say that to people, and it's funny because I just got a comment from a gentleman I know who isn't a musician, but he's a drummer. Because drummers aren't musicians, get it? But Sasha saying cheers from Canada. And so when I tell people that I come from the worst place in Calgary, they go, "What, Forest Lawn?" And I go, "Yeah, exactly." And so, it's a nice city, and there's hardly any crime and hardly any bad stuff goes on. But we have a couple of Calgarians on here. That's kind of funny. So there's a confirmation, and actually Ramona I know from Forest Lawn as well. So it's pretty funny because every time, like, I met one of my neighbors here in Florida, said, "Hey, I heard you're from Calgary." And I said, "Yeah." And she goes, "Me too." And I said, "Wow, that's cool." And she goes, "What neighborhood did you grow up in?" And she's got loads of money, right? And I'm like, "Well, not the nicest place." And she goes, "What, Forest Lawn?" And I go, "Yeah, exactly." And she's like, "Whoa." Like I've been cursed now, right? So
That's funny.
yeah, so it's pretty funny. But again, I mean, I can't stress it enough that I connected with you not
Yeah.
because I wanted Dave Matthews tickets, not
Yep.
because I thought you were incredibly handsome, which you're a pretty good looking guy.
Thanks.
Not because I had anything to gain, but because I really loved your brand and I loved your message. I loved the message that you were putting out there. Choose your attitude. And, if anyone could use to choose an attitude, it's probably someone who's been kicked in the face, as many times as you have in your life. And so, walk me through a little bit about, I kind of gave a quick rundown in the little pre thing that I did,
Yeah.
that I just said, I kind of walked through what it was that you had done, what you went through to kind of get where you're at today, some of the challenges you went through, some of the things
Yeah.
that happened to you, some of those punches in the face that you got. So, walk me through it a little bit.
Yeah. Well,
Just because I
yeah.
want you to relive getting punched in the face,
Right. Well,
Yeah.
it started out kind of a fairy tale in a sense where, a little kid wanting to, start a dream in the roadie industry. And that's, I fell into, I didn't fall into, I did the work. As a young kid, I loved Garth Brooks and I wanted to do this. I wasn't a musician. So my dad was an electrician, combined the two, and I put the effort together. And just was so driven that, instead of going to parties and such, I was the nerd that stayed after school and came before school to work on this. And literally right out of college, walked right onto the Rush tour. And,
Well, and you
had
told
that.
me something yesterday that kind of made me
Yes.
laugh a little bit when they said, "Do you want to go out and tour with Rush?" What'd you say?
Who's Rush? Who
See,
Rush
we
who?
can't be friends. We can't be
I
friends,
know.
Nick. I'm
Well,
sorry. I'm
by all
Canadian and
means,
I'm a bass player. So
right.
I had no choice but to be a massive Rush fan, right?
But afterwards, by all means, I was like, "Oh, this is what it is." And I was grateful to be on that tour, and I learned a lot. But at the same time, that was exactly when I met the who was the love of my life, Brianna, and started that journey. And here you are, just living a dream. But in that dream was Brianna, was born with cystic fibrosis, and so I was able to conquer my dream. And so when I met her, it was like, well, why not conquer this? And
Nick, sorry to back you
yeah.
up a bit here, but I don't remember if I ever told you this, and Sasha might remember. I don't know if Ramona would remember this, but I actually had a girlfriend back in it started in Edmonton. I met her at Sasha. Tell me, what was the bar called on by all the music stores there? And it was downstairs. It was a rock club downstairs by all the music stores. What was that called? White Avenue, I think. What was that bar called? Anyone? Give it to me. Come on, give me a comment here. Uh, I forget what it was called. I remember the Rex. I remember the CI South. I remember all the other places, but I can't remember what this place was called downstairs on White Avenue. Anyways, she was a waitress there. Beautiful girl. No, it wasn't Lucifer's. That was in Calgary. This was Edmonton. Um, anyways, really pretty girl, little mini skirt, just everything I thought, was, Edmonton. But anyways, her name was Margaret. We started dating, and eventually, like, she was very thin and she ate like an animal. Like, she ate so much food and I couldn't understand what was going on. And eventually she said, "I've got this thing called cystic fibrosis." And I had heard of it, but I didn't know what it was. And I said, "What's that?" And she kind of explained it to me. And, she couldn't keep weight on. She was just very tiny, very thin, and just ate and ate and ate and ate and ate and couldn't keep weight on. And so, sort of behind the scenes, I asked a few people questions, what's this all about? And they told me, she's probably not going to see 30. And I was like, wow, how's that happen? There's got to be a cure. There's got to be some medicine. There's got to be something. But we broke up, of course, as you do. And later on, a few years later, another friend of mine had reached out to me and said, "Hey, did you know Margaret died?" And I was like, "Oh no, that's sad." But anyways, yeah,
Yeah. So
cystic fibrosis is basically a death warrant, right?
yeah, it's a lung disease that basically takes out the salt in our bodies that for us healthier humans, it doesn't it that's what we use to remove the mucus from our lungs,
Oh,
so that way
okay,
we don't get sick.
yeah.
And so that's what she had. And at 3 years old, she's diagnosed and told that she's only going to live till 13. And so when I met her,
Wow.
she was already past that, at 20 years old. I was production manager of the Washington State FFA, Future Farmers of America. I was in charge of helping them bring that, to fruition at the they have 3,000, 4,000 members who come to the convention. And so, yeah, so they, here she is standing in front of them with a retiring address. And yeah, it was, sharing with the world that she has cystic fibrosis. And that's how we met, kind of in that sense.
Right, right.
So
Well,
yeah,
going backwards a bit, this Rush thing. So
yeah.
you said you did all this stuff before school and after school, and you specifically wanted to be a video guy.
I specifically wanted to be video. I
Why was
started,
that?
it again, it was just I actually started being a DJ young before I started school. And when I got into middle school, it was at a brand new school. And that school had, they called it morning announcements. So instead of over the PA system, they called it, it was actually on TV.
Oh,
Yeah. So yeah. And so I, being the technical nerd and at a new opportunity, um, with the entrepreneur mind, took advantage of the situation. And so I
yeah.
actually had my dad, um, driving me to school every morning, an
Oh, you
hour
were
early,
producing this video thing
every
for the
morning,
school?
every
Well, see,
morning.
if you really were an entrepreneur, you wouldn't have had to go in earlier. I would have negotiated a deal where instead of starting at 8
Well,
with the rest of the students, I got to start at 11 or at noon because I was going to produce the video for them. So that's what I got. I got the mornings off.
well, mind you, you didn't hear the full story, because in high
Ah,
school, what happened is I worked myself into where they bought me a full switcher system,
ah,
off of a computer. I ran the video program, and I had basically two out of the four periods. I had two of them off because
oh,
I
that's
was
cool.
literally just working on video.
That's cool.
Um, so yeah,
That's
um,
that's awesome.
yeah.
So yeah, back to Brianna, and so eventually, obviously, you lost her, which was extremely devastating.
It was, and before that, 2012, I lose my mom,
Yeah,
and then I go into losing my wife. When I lost my mom, it was kind of that, "Oh, okay, so this is what it's gonna be like."
yeah. You'd never
And
lost anyone close to you prior to
never,
that, I guess. Yeah,
never. Death was foreign.
yeah.
Um, and so, yeah, so
In some sick way, I guess it prepared you for the inevitable.
exactly,
Like you knew at what point you were married 10 years, right? So at what point did you
correct.
know you must have married really young because you're only like
I
32
was
or something, aren't you?
20 years old, yeah,
Yeah,
85,
yeah,
born
yeah.
in '85.
Wow,
So yeah.
you're a
Um,
young guy.
so yeah, so I meet her, and we go for, 10 years, and the whole entire time we're going to the doctor's office, and she's um having tests, and every single time we go in the test, those numbers get smaller, smaller. So when I met her, she was at 85%. Most of us are at probably 120%.
Yeah,
We've got a little extra, to breathe with.
right.
Um, but as her infections get worse, um, the breathing goes down. And so when she passed, so I met her at 80, she was at 85% lung function. When she passed, she was at 20% lung function.
Holy
Um,
shit.
yeah. So about 6 years in, she went from 85 to 50, all in like a 2 year thing, which was huge.
Yeah.
So that was scary.
So that was in 2017 when you lost her, right? So were you on the road? Like, did your road family basically help you survive that?
That's what helped me survive. The
Yeah,
road family was all I had left. Matter of fact, a
yeah,
week after, um, I went right in to go see some friends at the Tim McGraw, because I was with them in 2010, and it was like all of a sudden I felt alive again. It was like, oh, okay, so at least I have this. At least I have this.
right.
Um, and so, um, yeah. So yeah.
Yeah. So you didn't have to sit at home curled up in the fetal position in your apartment or whatever for very long. You went out on the
Well,
road, you were among friends.
Right, and what
Yeah,
I did right after, I mean, I had the celebration, so that took a month, so that was a
yeah,
production, and
yeah,
then after that, I had a project, which was 2.5 weeks of, doing I built the deck, and after that is when kind of I fell apart, is
yeah,
when all of a sudden I didn't have a project, home became something scary,
yeah,
and so, yeah, it was tough,
yeah.
um and go ahead.
Tell me about this moving forward to 2019. So then, this thing happened to your face. What was that all about?
So I'm on, Dave Matthews was a tour that I had dreamed about. And it back when I started, they were kind of one of the people that I went out to go connect with. Um, and so all of a sudden, this 2019, I go out with them. And, we in August, we have off, and I remember waking up and things just felt weird, and I was actually going out with another roadie friend, and I woke up and the left side of my face was paralyzed,
Wow.
um, and I thought it was a
And you
stroke.
didn't even
um,
drink or do drugs or
no,
anything,
I've
right? Like
I've never.
it wasn't
I
that you
am.
did a 8 ball of blow and half of your face
Yes,
was paralyzed. It was
exactly,
from nothing. You just
exactly.
woke
I
up like it wasn't related to anything you ate or drank or did, or it
Nope,
just
it
happens.
was
Is that normal? Is that how
just
it
happens.
normally
Well,
happens?
I mean, as anything, they say stress, right?
Yeah.
Um, and so it was, they say stress, but, which fair, but it's, yeah, so but it turned out to be, I thought it was something completely rare, but I guess it's like buying a new car. As soon as I had it, like, everybody I talked to was like, "Oh, I know
Oh
some."
yeah,
Oh,
I had that.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
That's nothing.
S
Yeah, it'll be
s
gone in a couple months. How long did it
but
take to go away?
Oh, probably 3, like, today, so it took probably a good month and a half to finally, turn around and
Yeah.
become, where I can be normal again, if you
Yeah.
will. But um, still today, I as I smile or whatever, it controls my eye.
Yeah. Yeah, I've
So,
noticed it. Sometimes your
yeah.
eye's a little bit
Yep,
closed or whatever. Yeah.
yep, yep.
Yeah, so you still don't have 100% control over it, but mostly.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So it's all, well, the whole entire side is is kinda weird. I mean, you can actually kinda see it when I
Yeah.
smile like that.
Yeah.
I'm not
Yeah.
winking my eye.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, I always
that's
thought you were
doing
just winking at me.
yeah. But anyway, so that was kind of this wake-up call of like, okay, well, wait a minute. Like, if that can happen, then my hearts, my lungs, um, you know, uh, uh, you know, it can all,
Shit
just
can fall
complete.
apart.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So I was like, okay, well, I need to start writing, and so uber focused like I am, I started writing,
Oh,
I
you wrote the
spent
book.
I
Yeah,
wrote
you
the
wrote the
book
book.
in 5 weeks. I just focused on it.
What's the book
Um,
called again?
Loving Someone Who's Dying.
Yeah. And I haven't gotten around to reading it yet, because it just seems like it's gonna be so friggin' sad, but, I want to. I think it's probably gonna be inspirational if it matches everything else you've been doing, you know?
No, it talks about our journey and kind of what we went through, and, it was beautiful.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
things we had, the pillow talks, um, it was something that was, you know, we would talk about death. We would
Well,
talk about this journey.
without getting too dark here or anything, when you're with someone who is dying, and that there's an end, there's an expiry date, and roughly what that expiry date is, every day must be lived to its fullest, I'm guessing. You don't waste a lot of days. Is that correct, or is that false?
S that's what Brianna's mission was. It was quality over quantity.
Yeah.
You live this life, where, you yeah, you're literally, as I tell people, it's kinda like a time, right? You've got this hourglass, And for her, she was told what the top of that hourglass, she all of a sudden you have that sand and it's a race, right? You're
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
at 13 years old, you're gonna die. Well, you and I don't have that.
Yeah.
And so, you have this feeling of like, okay, well, um, you know, tomorrow you've already at 20 years old, you're already, 8 years past what you're supposed to be living. And so, yeah, it was one of those things, quality over quantity, to the fact where doctors would prescribe her, say, oh, well, you need, 4 hours of treatment. And she would be like, I can't do that a day. I'm going to
Yeah.
do only 1 hour a day. And that's all, everything else is going to be my life.
Yeah. Good for
So,
her.
yeah, so it was
Good for
finding
her.
a doctor that would understand that and go through that. And by all means, like, this is all, you come home to this and you live this life. It's beautiful, rosy, and then you go on the road and you're trying to manage all this.
Yeah, that's gotta be incredible. I mean, I can't even imagine
Yeah.
what that's like, and plus, I'm sure there was an incredible amount of guilt as well whenever you had to leave and go on the road because you're leaving her there to deal with all of this reality and stuff, right? And you're going away to Fantasyland.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's basically what it is exactly that. Like, you're leaving to go to work, something you love. I mean, that was one thing when we met, though, is we both guaranteed each other our careers, right? And so we knew that our careers were something we both loved. She was a
Yeah,
veterinarian. She loved that kind of stuff. But for that, it was heavy. It was difficult.
yeah,
Especially when there were sometimes doctor's appointments that you couldn't make. It was one of those things that when I come home, I just kind of
yeah,
would start to live her life,
yeah.
um, as
Well,
opposed
it's like
to
when
yeah.
anybody else gets home and the wife goes, "Here, you deal with the baby now,"
Yes.
except her baby was actually her life and doctor's appointments and
Yeah.
medications and prescriptions and insurance companies and all that stuff. Because not only are you dying, but you're dealing with, the stupid politics and system of dying, I mean, that's ugh, what a terrible thought. So,
Yeah.
so then 2009, you get this face thing and you're starting to get over that. And then, or 2019, I'm sorry. And then, your feet are pulled out from under you. So what did that look like? Now COVID
Yeah,
hits and you're in
so
the touring business and you're on tour with
well,
Dave Matthews, right?
yeah, you're at this pivotal moment where, it's a dream to be on the road with them, and then, you've got 15 years into your career, so you're pretty dang comfortable, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, all of a sudden you're like, okay, well, I'm gonna write a book. I'm gonna do this hobby and I'm gonna invest in myself because,
Yeah.
how often do you get the chance to write a book, let
Yeah.
alone about
Yeah.
something inspirational about this? And so, of course, I put everything I had into it. I believe in myself. That's what I've
Yeah.
done for the last 15 years.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, I invest everything I had, and I'm
Mm,
going to do this, and I have 12 months of work, so of course I've got the capital. So like,
yeah.
what else could go wrong, right?
Yeah, 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 yeah. Well, nobody saw this thing coming. I mean,
Who
I've
does?
talked every day in the past year and a half to multiple business owners in our industry who have lost some everything. Some have lost everything and then some. So they've lost everything and then borrowed and went into debt. So they've gone even past everything, because they've gone into debt as well. Some have lost a little bit, but can't recover. And I mean, it's been a devastating time, but mostly even worse, like companies like mine and companies like all of these PRG and Bandit Lights and all these companies, they've lost big money. But
Yeah,
for you, it's completely different. For my friends who are lighting designers or video techs or video directors or whatever, they literally, I mean, had nothing to do. Like it was like, at least me, I could focus on cleaning up my business and evolving and doing things like that. But you went from, 100 to 0, right?
yeah, yeah.
So,
It was it
and the cool thing about your story, which as sad and effed up as your story is, uh, the cool thing about it is instead of curling up in a ball and crying, and you probably did a bit of that stuff too, but and
Oh,
why
still.
me? Why me? But instead of that, you kind of brushed yourself off again for like the fifth or sixth time
Yeah.
and said, I'm going balls deep into this choose your attitude thing, and I'm going to go out and create a brand at the worst possible time when I have no income whatsoever. And everybody thinks I'm completely retarded for even thinking about this, that I should just sit back and eat macaroni and cheese and save as much money as I can. And instead, you're going all in. You're taking your credit cards. You're like, how did
I
you fund this thing?
I mean, my credit cards.
Yeah.
I had already here. I have this pile of inventory. April 7th, I had invested in an event. We're gonna have this big release. I've got this pile of books. Of course,
Yeah.
again,
Yeah.
like 15 years in the career. Why would I not?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and I was so
Yeah,
proud of myself.
it felt pretty secure. If shit hits
Oh,
the fan, at least I can stay on the road and I'm making a good living, right?
right. Yeah,
Yeah,
the bill I mean, at the end of the day, it was, yes, the bills are getting paid and I can
yeah,
fund, the hobby.
yeah,
Well, and then when it turns into, okay, well, now I don't have that fund,
yeah,
and so now it's like, okay, well, what can you do? Well, that's when you sit there and go, "Okay, what do I have and what can I do with that?"
yeah,
And
yeah,
so it was basically that. So that's when I pivoted. I started doing the podcast, doing all the things that I could do with what I had.
yeah.
I
Well, I mean, the incredible thing to me, you actually own the trademark on Choose Your
yep,
Attitude. I
yep,
mean,
yep.
what a friggin' trademark. Like that's like owning the trademark on hello or
Yeah,
whatever. Like, I mean, what a friggin' trademark that is. Choose your attitude.
I
Wow. You
I
know?
I mean, a lot of that was luck too. I mean, early in the game, that's exact. I mean, I went right to the URL. I went right
Yeah.
to the trademark, and
Yeah.
these are things that you purchase that you don't that some business people don't understand. Like these are the startup costs that
Yeah.
are
Yeah.
tough. That make starting a business tough because it's
Well,
not cheap.
it's your intellectual property. It's
Yes.
and so for some people that is a patent, that is a piece of
Yep.
technology, it's a piece of software, it's
Yep.
it's the way that you've designed a picture or whatever it is. But for companies like mine and
Yep.
certainly yours especially because that's really all you've got. That's your entire
Yep.
currency
Yep.
is your intellectual property, which is the choose your attitude logo, brand, URL, etc. And I mean the URL, like I've got it on the screen right now. I found it hard to believe when you and I first started talking that you actually owned that URL. I was like, what the hell? How'd
So
you get that?
I actually, so that was another thing, and this is, part of that technology, mindset of going. When I actually signed up, I actually grabbed all the URLs but .com. But .com was actually somebody else had.
Yeah.
And so what I did is I just, kind of ate at it, and that was another thing. Come January, all of a sudden I had spent a little, it was like $20 to have somebody, to be able to get the owner. Well, anyways, they either, I don't know how, but anyways, I got an email that said it was free, or not free, but it was available.
Available. Yeah.
Um,
Did you have
so
to pay for it or you just had
heck,
to register it?
I had to pay for it.
How much?
It was like, I think it was almost a grand.
Oh, okay.
It
Yeah,
wasn't.
because I have a similar story with Gear Source. When I first
Yep.
started Gear Source, remember this is 2001. And in 2001, the internet was still pretty friggin' new, right?
Yep.
And so I didn't know a lot and there wasn't a gazillion websites out there like there is today. So I still have this notebook where I scribbled 1,000 different names and scratched them out and changed them and did all these things. And I came up with Gear Source. And so I go out, register the company name, I get the business, I do all these things, and then I'm like, oh shit, I need to go get the website, right? And it's not available.
Oh,
And
geez.
there's
Yeah.
no one on it. Like there's nobody using it, but it's not
Yep.
available. So
Yep.
I'm like, damn it, what the hell? What do I do now? So I just put a hyphen. So it was gear-source.com. I didn't know that that was like the kiss of death at that time, and it actually
Yep.
worked out okay. But probably about a year into it, I get a call from some guy who says, "Hey, you know," or maybe an email. I don't know. It might have been
Yeah.
an email because he found me through the URL registry or whatever. But I get someone reach out to me who says, "Hey, would you like to have gearsource.com without the hyphen in it?" And, I'm a sales guy, so I'm playing him now a little bit. And I go, "Yeah, I'm pretty used to Gear Source with the hyphen in it." And I'm
Yeah.
thinking, thank God, please give me
Yeah.
this domain. But I'm saying, no, no, I'm pretty comfortable with the hyphen. I like it. My customers have gotten used to it and stuff. So I'm downplaying, and his first price was like $10,000 or something.
Oh,
And
geez.
I'm like, yeah, if you ever come around, let me know, because, and I know this guy just wants to offload this thing at this point, right? So he calls me back a couple days later and he goes, "Hey, do you sell those smoke machines, fog machines?" And I said, "As a matter of fact, we do." And he says, "I'll tell you what,
Ah.
trade me a good fog machine and I'll give
Ooh.
you the domain." So I think I gave him a Gem ZR20 fogger or something. And he was happy as hell. And it cost me like 400 or 500 bucks, and I got the
See, yep.
domain. So
What I mean, if you look at my domain host, when I got it, the what it said it was, I've now almost tripled to quadrupled,
the
like,
value
it's
of it.
worth. Oh, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
it's probably more
So
than that. I
yeah,
would
so
guess I would guess that it's gotta be a $10,000-$15,000 domain at this point. It's
I'm
got to be. It's got to be. And that's such a weird number that they come up with, because number one, it's
yeah.
whatever somebody will pay. So,
Well,
if
it
Nike wants to go out and do a promotion called Choose Your Attitude,
yep.
they'll pay
So
$100,000 like nothing.
and that's why I went for the trademark, because,
Right.
yes, part of trademark is just like copyright, that whoever was the first one to create it, yes, they technically get it. So, of course, heaven forbid, that there is that chance that that could happen, that somebody
Yeah.
could be like, "Oh, well, I was first." Well, at the same time, knowing the industry of, e-commerce and shirts, anybody can slap a name on it. So the last thing I wanted to do is create this, all this effort, and then have some person who's just got a shirt shop and
Yeah.
throws it on there too. So I
Yeah.
wanted to have a little bit of, so that's where that came from.
So
Um,
pulling that back to like a
yeah,
sort of, startup business advice kind of thing. So
yeah,
if someone was coming to you and saying, "Hey, I'm going to go out and start a brand, or start a community, or a t-shirt company, or a whatever," would you say it's more important to secure the URL, or it's more important to uh, well,
s-
and as a
s-
side question, is the brand name more important, or the ability to secure the brand name? So in other words, if I had a brand name that I thought was kick ass, but
yeah,
I couldn't get a trademark on it. But then I had one that I thought was sort of almost as kick ass, but not quite as
yeah.
much, but I could actually secure it. Which would you go for?
So it's a challenging question. I
Good.
w-
I
I
like
would say
challenging questions.
I would say my answer would be, as always, just do it. Start selling, start doing the things. Why? Because at the end of the day, the trademark is just a piece of paper that says, yes, this is the day he started, and yes, he has done the work to make this real. But at the end of the day, what really is the solid is the, okay, well, here's the proof. I started selling this on this day, and this is the reality of this. So that's part of, doing the trademark, is I've had to prove, okay, I started selling on this day, so I had to show my first order. I had to show what those items were. And, so that is where the money is, I guess,
Yeah,
where
yeah, they
the
call it
actual worth.
yeah, use in commerce. And so
Yes.
I happen to be an expert on trademarking, and that's
Oh,
what I was
perfect.
looking around for. I was looking for my
Okay.
trademark, but
Yeah.
I own a trademark that
Yep.
Google stole from me.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, so it's a long and very painful story. 4 years of litigation. Uh, I spent about $1 million. Google spent about $6 million to crush me, and they did.
Oh,
Um,
geez.
but the end of the story is I still own the trademark. They still
Wow.
infringed on it, but I'm not
Yeah.
allowed any money from them for them infringing on my trademark because they
Oh,
crushed
geez.
me in court. You know,
Oh,
it's
god.
insane. You know, the big will always win, the little will
Yeah.
always get fucked is basically the end of the story. That's just how it works, you know.
Well,
And yeah, so I know way too much about what you're talking about, use in commerce and all of these things. So
it's definitely good to have those pieces for, when it is, but like you said, yes, the strong arm will win
oh,
if
if
it
Nike
gets to
wants
that.
choose your attitude, they're gonna walk all over you for
Hey, but
believe me.
most likely, hopefully, they're gonna, I don't know. Business is weird. But hopefully they'll do the correct thing as everybody should. But as I say that, I'm going, "Oh my
Well,
god,
you know
correct.
what though?
Who does the correct thing?"
Google, I would have settled with Google for less than what they spent with on lawyers. You know, I would
Yeah.
have settled for
Yeah.
a few $1 million. They spent 6 million to crush me. And by the way, all the smart people out there said that Google owes me $200 million in licensing for infringing on my trademark. So, you know, the bottom line is if you're big and you have really great lawyers and lots of them, you can crush anybody you want. You can just walk around
Right.
crushing little businesses like ours. And
Well,
they tried to crush me. They tried to put me out of business. They tried to ruin me
oh,
completely.
jeez.
So I had to settle for nothing. And you know, because otherwise they were going to come after me for legal fees, $6 million in legal fees.
Oh,
So
jeez. Ugh.
it's a scary thing. So, anyways, that
Yeah.
was a big sidebar, but you're
Yeah.
right. You should secure your brand. You should protect it. The problem comes when you have to defend it. You know, so I
Well,
agree with protecting it by way of trademark, but defending it, I'm not so sure because I've won a few with my LED company, for example. I won a few situations where all they had to do was stop using it. I didn't end up getting any royalties or fees back from them or anything. So, you know, I don't know. At the end of
yeah.
the day, I hate lawyers.
At the end of the day, that type of business is tough because I did notice just now, one of the things, not to kind of like sideball, but since we're on the topic, I noticed the patent office is starting to question if they're going to start being more lenient on patent, because they feel that things have monopolized. Um, uh, and so what they're wondering if maybe they need to be a little bit less strict with patents so people can be a little bit more um, uh, uh,
It's hard to
competitive.
say. You know, that's
Yeah,
hard to say. Like at the end of the day, my advice to friends of mine and stuff now is just go for it.
yeah.
Don't worry about patents and trademarks and stuff because you're going to get fucking run over anyways. If somebody
Well,
wants to screw you, they're going to screw
yeah.
you. And by the time you can sue them, they've moved on to making dresses or doll
Exactly.
houses or something.
Well,
You know, they're out of your
and
business.
at the end of the day, like if it does fall down to what is law is who was there first. So
Well, no,
do
not
the work.
necessarily, because I was there first with Google. So
Well,
law, that's supposed to be the law, but that's not how the law
right,
is
right.
actually
Well,
handled.
right, right. Well, I mean, I guess what I'm saying is if we're not playing the money game as far as
Yeah,
the strong arm,
yeah,
what's written on paper is, that's how that works. But
yeah.
you are correct that, with enough money, you could just change any law, I guess. But yeah.
So you know, you're now in 2019.
Yep.
You realize that you're not going back to work anytime soon. Um, you know, one of the hardest things obviously is getting a
Yep.
startup business, especially when it's a brand. You know, like this
Yes.
thing is a lifestyle, is a brand, is a community. From what I can understand by looking at it, it's
Yep.
probably
Yep.
not going to throw off a lot of cash quickly. So
Yep.
you're investing knowing that you're not really going to collect back a lot right away. And so that has to be challenging. But what are some of the challenges that you've tripped over in sort of transitioning from a touring video guy, at least part for a short time,
Yeah.
transitioning completely out of that, completely into being a startup business guy? What are some of the challenges that you've come across or things that you've learned, bumps on the head that you've received?
One of the most difficult things I think is, I'm a person who loves to learn. I
Yeah.
love a challenge. And for me, it's a blessing, because if I didn't have this, I wouldn't have that distraction.
Mm.
We've had these conversations where, when I don't have that distraction, you've helped me out of some of them. And,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, that is what I'm thankful for in this journey is I had this distraction that, is also relative to me as far as the choose your attitude. Like, I mean, it's Brianna's legacy, and at the same time, it connects with me as well as helping others. And so
Yeah.
there's that.
So when you say the distractions, so that you're not sitting around going, "Oh, poor me, I'm not out on tour. I lost my gig,"
Right.
all of those
Right.
things, right?
You
Yeah.
know, I'm, it's just like when Brianna passed, I had her celebration. I had, then I put the deck together, and, you know, uh, just like as a kid, when I walked into, the junior high or the high school, I didn't know all of what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Some of these gigs we walk into, it's, you know enough, but what we're usually paid for too is being able to find the solution.
Yeah.
And so there was that hunger and that drive. And I mean, mind you, like being a being a guy in this industry, we sell ourselves.
Yeah.
And so, it's we do that work, and when we show up, money's not really talked about anymore. It's
Yeah.
not a
Well,
negotiation.
I
That
wanna talk to you
Yeah,
about that for a second. So,
yeah,
you said being a guy in this industry one of the things I know is every time I bring up your name to someone, they always go, "Oh, Nick, he's a great guy. He's a really good dude. He's a good young man. He's a,"
yeah,
and
love it.
everyone, whether it's, it was David Davidian a couple days ago made a comment that, I love that kid. He's a good kid. Say hello to him. Wiseman, who,
Yep,
as everyone knows, I'm really close with John, and typically where John goes, I go as far as just thoughts and attitude and mentality and stuff. There's a nice little comment for you there.
love
What a
it. I saw
beautiful,
that.
beautiful. You do have a beautiful heart and soul.
Thank
I
you.
would I would echo that for sure. Um, so, how do you do that? Like, how do you manage basically not being a dick? Not being like being productive and being successful in the road, the video lighting, concert, whatever you want to call it, the production world, the touring world,
Yep.
but without being a dick and stepping on other people and saying I'm a better tech than that guy or whatever, you should hire me instead of him or whatever. Just getting that great following where people know that you're going to get your work done, but you're also a good person.
It's it, the word that came to mind right away was wasted energy.
Yeah.
And I say that,
Such a
and
great statement, by the way.
and I say that because it's almost in a sense because I'm so driven, and I don't go on the road because I need to work. Mind you,
Yeah.
last year, of course, I need
You didn't
yes,
go on the road
yes,
because you needed
yes,
to work. Yeah, that
exactly.
changed.
But by all means, yes, you gotta get paid, but I love what I do.
Yeah.
This is almost a connection again. I love being able to stand up to a struggle or a battle and being able to get to that solution. And to be able to overcome something that everybody around you is like, I don't see it. I don't see how it's going to happen. I don't. And that's what we do in our industry of touring, right? We take this thing that all these people don't really see as possible, and every single day we like magicians, we're putting this together, right?
Yeah.
And so for me, it's usually sometimes my downfall too, is because I'm so driven in the solution that
You care
conflict.
so much.
Yes,
Yeah. Yeah.
that that we're at a gig and there's a problem. I'm not trying to be a dick, or I'm not focused on how we're getting along. I'm going, okay, this is not working on this technical issue is not happening. Why? How can we
Yeah.
fix this? How can we
Yeah.
fix this?
Solution.
Um,
Focused on the
yes,
solution, not the problem, right?
yes.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
heard an amazing story. There's a guy by the name of Steve Sims, and he was telling a story. I was at Podmax, And Steve Sims does this. It's called, I think it's the Bluefish. He owns this company and he helps. He amazing story, but he's like helps VIP millionaires basically have their trips. But he was telling a story about Elon Musk and like, how he's got this spaceship and all you hear about is
When you
these
say
crash.
have their trips, though, he's not a drug dealer.
No, 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 no.
Different
He's
kind of
like,
trip.
yeah, he's like Justin Timberlake wants to go on like,
Oh, okay.
a
Experiences.
getaway.
Yeah, like VIP
Exactly. And
experiences kind of thing.
right. And you got to have special people to do that. Well, he does
So
that. And
what about
yeah.
Elon?
So Elon, he's got these spaceships and he was telling this story about Elon and how, you see on the news how all these issues happen. They keep falling over, and they blow up and the news is like, oh my gosh, this happened. Well, he was explaining like in the control room that every single time this happened, that everybody's just like, oh, this like, oh no, like this emotion. But every single time that happened, Elon would lean forward to look at the data and
Yeah.
and when he said that, I was just like, okay, I'm
That's
not comparing.
amazing. That's such a great little point that you've just made there. I hope everyone gets that. I hope people are paying attention because he leaned in and went, wait a
Yes,
second, let me look at the data because he wanted to know why it happened. He wanted
right.
to focus on fixing the problem, not on the drama of, oh shit, a rocket blew up or whatever, right?
Exactly. And
Yeah.
that's where I am. And as we've talked about before, usually my battle of my, my personal status is usually sometimes of like I can't figure out that,
Yeah.
you see it and I'm like, okay, there's got to be a solution. There's got to be
Yeah.
something and it's
Yeah.
not working.
Yeah. No,
The
you're an incredibly passionate person when it comes to, having gone through some of these problems with you. You're
yes.
you're an incredibly passionate person who, gets very frustrated when things don't catch up to sort of you. Like you've
Yes.
got this thing in your head that this has to get fixed. And if
Yep.
it doesn't get fixed at that pace, I will tell you, you're around 20 years younger than me. That is one thing that those 20 years bring you is a little more patience. And
Oh, geez. Yeah.
so my family, my friends, my girlfriend would tell you that, if there's anything that's changed in me, it's that I've
Yep.
had to acquire some patience because I
Yep.
used to just like be so dialed into this has to get solved now,
Well,
but yeah,
you're also talking to a person that like my whole entire upbringing, I'm the nerd who's staying late to school or going early to school while everybody else is at their party having their experience. I'm going, oh, dude, I've got this video. Like, I want to make this better. Or, dang it, like this video keeps stopping at this moment and I gotta fix this.
yeah,
I wasn't playing video games. I was trying to make these pieces together, like at the junior
yeah,
high. Yeah, we had morning announcements. Well, a desk and a chair sucks. And it was also a wood shop. So I
yeah.
created, an actual news desk.
Wow.
What better way to actually have organization than, oh,
Yeah,
I need to create a storyboard for every single day. So I
yeah,
created like, and this is me creating this. I didn't have a
yeah,
teacher going, this is how the news works. This is me
yeah.
going, I want to do this. How
Yeah.
can I?
Yeah, you just had
And
a greater vision. You had a greater vision of how things needed to be, and you saw it
yeah,
so clearly, and maybe the people around you didn't. The people around you were like, "Let's just get through this so we can go grab a
yep.
beer or whatever." And, you're the guy who wants to make it perfect,
Well,
and
and that hunger is what helped me through this last year too, because I've always sold myself, right?
yeah,
Doing technology. I'm not in retail. I mean,
yeah,
come on, for crying out loud. How many talks have we had where you're like, Nick, come on, that's not the type of retail business. Like,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
and so these are things that I'm learning by all means.
yeah, yeah,
But at the same time, it's nice to have those challenges to learn and to get in there. And so that's how I guess, not to get all the way around to
yeah, yeah.
that
No, it's
back
all
to the
good.
question, that's exactly what drove me, is that knowing, okay, it wasn't the fact of like, okay, I could fail or I, I want to get successful at it. And it's, if I keep I'm not going to do it the same way every single time. I'm going to keep trying, but I am going to succeed because
Yeah.
I want to learn. That is where I'm driven.
Well, my good friend Michael Strickland, owner and CEO of Bandit Lights, who may or may not be listening right now, always says you don't lose or you don't fail until you quit.
Yes,
And
facts.
I know that you have the exact same attitude, which is, you know, uh, you won't quit. I mean,
Yeah.
and sometimes to a fault, and that
Yep.
means you are
Facts.
some kind of a sicko entrepreneur like me.
I
We don't quit.
Yeah.
I mean, we
Yeah.
we just keep banging our head on the wall until either the wall breaks or our head breaks.
Facts.
But I ain't
Facts.
stopping.
Yeah. Well,
It's a bizarre thing.
but that's the truth though. I mean, you look at like Thomas Edison and you look at Elon, like, or even go
Yeah.
to
Elon
the
was out of money. I mean, he was completely flat broke. I think it was midnight on New Year's Eve or whatever. He had one more payroll that was going to be made on January 2nd or whatever. And the next day he got funded and now he's the richest guy in the world. One of
one
my
of my
favorite ones is the Kentucky Fried Chicken one, where I think it was
oh
1,068 times he got no's, and then
oh
the
geez.
1,069th or whatever the number is, he got a yes. Who
Well,
tries 1,068 times? Who does that?
I, I mean, if you're like, Gwen Stefani, not to, talk about her, but as she says, there could be 100 people in the room and
Yeah,
99 could say no, but it's just
yeah,
that one that says yes.
yeah,
And,
yeah, yeah.
it's
That's
true.
cool. I didn't know
Um,
she said that. What
I
was she
think it was
talking about? Husbands?
oh, right. No, I
How
know.
many country stars she asked to marry her before finally
Yeah.
one did?
Was it Gwen Stefani or it was, no, it
Oh,
was
you
not
mean the
Gwen
99
Stefani.
problems and you ain't one? What's her name?
No, that's Jay-Z.
Ariana
That's a
Grande.
song.
No, that's Ariana
No,
Grande.
no, I know I can see her. She plays piano and she
Oh,
that's
the
not
New
Gwen
York,
Stefani.
New York. What's her name? What's the New York lady's name? Somebody give us a comment here. We're brain
Ah,
dead.
it's
Is it
not
the New
Gwen
York one?
Stefani.
Not
Um,
not the one who sings New York.
no,
Who are you talking about?
she's the newer Gwen Stefani.
The newer Gwen Stefani.
Oh my god. I
I don't
see
know.
her right now. She's the one who wore meat during one of the award ceremonies.
People tell us. Come on, give us a
Um,
comment.
there, I got to see it now.
Where's our
Singer
crowd here?
with meat.
Singer with meat. Oh my
Yep.
goodness.
Um,
God knows what that's going to bring up.
well, Meatloaf came up, and it's definitely not Meatloaf. um,
Yeah, that'd be weird.
um,
Lady
yeah. Oh,
Gaga?
Gaga. Yes, Lady
Yeah.
Gaga. There we
There
go.
you
Thank you,
go.
everybody.
There you go. Marsha
Lady
got it first,
Gaga.
Chris.
See, I need to watch music more.
Marsha Stern beat Chris Asen by about 2 seconds. And Chris Asen, shame on you for knowing the answer to that question. Shame on you.
Right, right. That's funny.
That's funny.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's and it's just like every hero though too. You every single all these people are made big because of that one time they were successful, but not often is it shown how many times they've failed. And
Yeah.
if you especially when sports and stuff, I mean, that's all people do is fail, and they try until we win. And so
Yeah.
that's um
Yeah. Well, who was it? What's the guy's name who does Outliers? The little New York guy with the friggin' afro. What the hell is his name? The
oh geez,
writer.
here we go again.
I
I
think
don't
this
know.
glass of wine has me drunk already. I can't think of anything. But Malcolm Gladwell is his name. I didn't even need
Okay.
our comment section over here. Uh, but in Outliers in the book, it
Yeah.
says, to get good at anything, you have to put 10,000 hours into it, whether
Well,
it's a sport or whether it's whatever, piano or whatever. To become really,
yep.
really good at something, it takes 10,000 hours. And I'm
One
not
of
sure if he's exactly accurate with that, but I agree with it.
one of the biggest things I've learned this last year out of all the lessons, consistency. Consistency.
Yeah.
You could be a professional and you could do it really fast, but it's always the person who's still going who's seen as the success, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Well, it's funny you mentioned that because you and I have actually had conversations slash arguments about that where
Yes.
I've said, hey, you need to back off this and focus more on this. And you're like, no, but I got to keep this going. It's got to be consistent. It's got to be consistent. And,
Yeah.
you really, you're a frustrating person because you can't change your mind.
Yeah.
But that's also a very positive thing about you is that you can't change your mind. And so you're very committed to your ideas and to your thoughts and to where you're going and stuff. And so, that brings me to sort of the next point. One of the other challenges that I know that you've addressed with me
Yep.
is pulling people along for that ride. And so I think this goes to not only people who have started businesses in the past couple of years, but even just people who deal with other people, whether you're an LD and you're talking about your lighting crew or your crew chief or whatever. But having people not only buy into your idea, but have the same passion and drive that you do to bring that idea to
Yeah.
fruition, to bring it full circle, that is brutally difficult. And I know that you have really struggled with that. So tell me what you think about that one.
Well, as soon as you say that, it reminds me of all the lighting designers that have asked me 800 times to rebuild my video wall. You know? Um,
Yeah.
eh, but at this end of the
Now
day.
the comments are going to start flying in. Just hang on because we probably
Yeah,
got some
exactly.
lighting people here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's exactly that though, where, I think that's where I struggle is, and I know we've, like you said, we've talked about this.
Yeah.
Um, I'm not I'm so focused on the mechanics or the mechanical of creating something where I'm trying, like, if I see something, I'm gonna keep working at it until I can make it happen. And what challenges me is when there's something that seems uh I forget the word, but trivial is
Yeah.
the word. Um, rather than
You mean it seems
actual.
trivial to other people? They
Sure,
think it's trivial?
or it's when a challenge is presented and it's a trivial challenge rather than, for example, like, if the only thing that comes to my mind right now for an example like this is, we've set up 100 times, upstage center with video, and you go to a venue and it's like, okay, well, you know we don't have enough room. Well, you're right, but then you have to figure out how are you going to do this. And I remember, as I'm saying that, I'm like, okay, no, this is a horrible example, but
Because you
trivial
can't
in the
think of
fact.
one time when you had to do that.
Well, no, I know exactly one time where
Yeah.
we had no room, and I remember stepping away going, "Guys, give me 5 minutes, let me think here." And sure enough, there's a small little cavity up top, and I was like, "Okay, guys, let's just bring engineering up there." Or not even video engineering, it was just our stuff, and
Yeah.
so we brought it all up there, and we were able to move the entire stage, the 3 feet back that they needed. And it was just having to change something. But I guess what I'm saying is, like, if somebody said, "No, you can't use that space up there," knowing that that space was available, that would be trivial to me, where it's like, "Okay, but wait, this is just somebody saying no, as opposed to literally it not being able to be used." Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah.
So,
No, it makes perfect sense. And again, I've
yeah,
gone through many of these complications with you
yeah,
where you didn't understand why people were saying no, and therefore, to you it felt like a brick wall and it felt like somebody was just pushing back or being a dick or whatever. And so sometimes, again, sometimes that's where, you know, age brings you the ability to maybe make those little adjustments to where,
yeah.
okay, I understand that. Is there a way, that we could do this? Like where, I don't know, like sometimes just it's just a communication thing,
For
because
sure.
sometimes everybody puts their backs up and next thing you know, you can't get a problem solved, right? So
One of my struggles all kinds of struggles. But with, like, for example, the website, I am also the website tech, and doing that,
Yeah.
I work with the theme, and then I also work with all these apps, and so I'm kind of that middleman trying to figure things out. And one of the biggest challenges I've learned is you ask a question and you get an answer, and that answer is usually no. And so for me, I go, okay, well, I know that we can get there. So now I got to figure
Yeah.
out how to re-ask this question to understand and try to make sure that I'm not asking the question to argue.
Yeah.
My goal is I just want to get to the finish line.
But let me tell you something
Yeah.
funny. It's funny
Yeah.
you should bring up the website because I've always told you you have a website that looks like you're a massive brand and a massive company. It's a very professional website, and
Thank
I'm
you.
not blowing smoke up your skirt. But 2 weeks ago, I had Robe Lighting, a
Yeah.
probably a $250 million company on here talking about their charity, which God forbid I forget what it's called, robybackstage.org.
Okay.
And so for those 2 weeks since I've had them on here, I've been trying to order a single freaking t-shirt off of their website and I can't. And
Oh,
so
wow.
today I finally, because I got a message from Craig at Roby,
Yeah.
and Craig's probably watching and he's going to give me shit any second now. But I got a message from Craig today saying, you realize only you are having the problem. So maybe it's
Oh,
operator
geez.
error or something, right? And so I've got this little app on my computer called Vidyard where I can record an on-screen
Yep.
video sharing my screen with me on it. And so I said, okay, look here, I'm placing an order and now I'm putting a t-shirt into my shopping cart. Remember, I own a, many million dollar e-commerce website. So here's me putting the thing in my shopping cart, and here's me, hitting checkout, and here's me selecting PayPal as my payment method and putting my address in, and here's me hitting submit, and then it goes boom, you're stuck. Here you are. You can't get past this moment. And I said, what button do you want me to click now? Because nothing is working at this point. So please help me. And
Yep.
so finally, again, I just sent them the video, but the point being, this is a big $250 million company that has a website that I can't order a t-shirt from, and I'm not putting Roby down by any
Yep.
stretch.
Yep.
But you've built this e-commerce business that's a tiny little company that is growing, but it's so smooth and so
Thank you.
slick. And I order a t-shirt, and then I get this really cool message that says, "Hey, we're perfectly folding your beautiful t-shirt right now, and it'll be to you just in a couple of days." And
Yeah.
I mean, all these slick little messaging things and marketing things and stuff. You've done a really nice job with that
Thank
site.
you.
So
It's
yeah, we're not going to have much time left here, but I
Yep.
want to hear, like I'm still trying to focus on some of the challenges. So I know that
Yep.
people here, people I've talked to over the past year and a half, so many people have pivoted. Some have pivoted in
Yep.
similar ways that you have, like Patrick Dearson started a brand.
Yep.
Um, he's a lighting designer. I don't know if you know him, but
Yep.
Patrick's a great guy. He started a brand selling some swag and stuff called The Activity. And I don't know how well he's done with it or how poorly he's done with it. But, I know a lot of people who have started different pivot brands. Some have worked, some haven't. Some will probably go away now that everybody's back out going on tour and getting real busy again and stuff. But, you know, like number one, are you going to continue this as you go out on tour now? Does this remain your life's dream, and are you going to continue to grow it and build it and everything else? And give me like your top. And I know I'm throwing throwing something at you right now, but give me your
Yeah.
top three. Like if you had a 17-year-old kid coming up to you right now and going, "Hey, buddy, I want to start a brand. I want to start a company." Give me
Ooh.
your top three pieces of advice. And
Um,
what do
yeah.
you think those would be?
So first off, of course, I'm gonna keep doing this. I sat with Gary Vee, and I was honored to be able
Which is
to.
incredible, by the way.
Oh
What
my
was
god.
that like? Like for those of you who don't know Gary Vee, Gary Vaynerchuk, I've been following this
Yep.
guy for
Yep.
since the very beginning, probably 20 years since he started. And the guy probably has a following of 100 million people or something. I mean,
Yeah.
he's massive,
It
massive.
it was huge. I mean, I kind of threw myself under the bus, and even then, it's a learning experience. But like he even said himself, like this is my blood. I'm not doing this the tough part is for me to do this, it has to be profitable and it has to be a business and make money to keep going. So that's my goal, is to make it so I can keep doing this because I love helping. I love doing this. So of course I'm going to keep doing it. Plus, I mean, heck, I've already been in this for this much and with this much money. There's
Yeah. Why
there
stop
I
now? Yeah.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And like we've talked about, I know we can get there.
Yeah.
And so, there's that. But I the advice. One of the biggest things I would say is I would almost say connected to that is to stop. So many people, and it's this industry right now where everybody's putting out training because everybody wants to buy that cheap, okay, I want to do this. Well, I would say the very first thing is to stop seeking advice and to act.
Yeah. That's a
That
good
would be
one.
step number one.
Yeah. Yeah.
um
Well, you know what? People get, and I hate to use a
yep,
stupid cliche term, but paralysis by analysis.
yep,
People overthink
yep,
starting a business, starting a brand, you know, do something, act,
yes.
sell something, whatever it is, but jump in. Like, you could keep sticking your toe in the water at the end of the pool, or you could just freaking jump in, unless it's one of those, viral videos where you dive and it's frozen.
Right.
Yeah,
i would
that's no
i would
fun.
I would
You
not
might
have
have wanted
any
to
of
stick your
this.
toe in that one.
Yeah. Well,
Sorry.
we would not have any of this. I don't think either one of us, if we would have asked that question of like, you know, looking ahead and do we want this challenge? Well, no,
Well,
we,
no,
it's,
everyone thinks you're nuts. Everyone thinks I'm nuts. Everyone has always thought,
I think I'm nuts.
entrepreneurs are a
Yeah.
little bit nutty. I mean, we have to
Yeah.
be.
Yeah.
You have to be. A paycheck? I don't want a paycheck. You keep your paycheck. I'll tell you, I'll
Yeah.
go earn some money someday. I
I
like sleeping in my car.
I'm not sure about that, but yes.
Yeah, yeah.
um, but
I,
to
I
get
was
to
kidding.
that I know, but to get to the goal, definitely the hunger of sleeping in the car, if it means getting there, definitely. But no, I would say yes, definitely step one would be, to stop looking for answers and to keep going. I could relate this to fitness, I could relate this to sports, I could relate this to anything you do in life. So many people are looking for that quote to help them, looking for that, when really it starts with you.
Yeah.
um you know I selfishly had to wait for my face to go paralyzed. Why? I don't know why the hell I had to wait that long. Could I write a book? Hell yes, I could write a book.
So hang on a sec. Let me just
Yeah.
give everyone a disclaimer. So please
Yeah.
don't wait for your face to get
Yes,
paralyzed before
exactly.
you do what you
Well,
really want to do in life. All right. Please, people. All
exactly.
right. There you go.
I mean, I lost my mom and I lost Brianna. You think that would be enough. For some reason, it had to happen to me to,
Yeah.
get that
Yeah.
step forward. But yeah, so that would be step one. Step two, you know, you may disagree with this, but Steve Sims, another one of those, and maybe I'm just latching on to some of the things he was saying. But so many times society wants us to structurally do things perfect. um you know A to B is how you would start a business. um I got my I didn't get my face paralyzed, my face went paralyzed. I wrote a book, the book became a shirt, words on a shirt, which then became a brand. And now I'm COVID hits and I'm desperately in need of figuring out how I'm going to make this into something. Oh, it's a business, it's a brand, here we are.
Yeah.
um that's not the best way to do things, but is life the
There's
best
no
way to
part of
do
that I
things?
disagree with. There's no part of that I disagree with. I
Right,
think I don't think there is a conventional way of doing anything.
right,
I hate conventional ways of doing things. If the store is over there and
yeah,
it's from here to there to get to the store, I'll take the back way because I
right.
want to get an adventure on my way to the store. I don't want the boring trip to the store.
S-
So
s-
yeah, I agree with
so
everything you just said.
yeah, so I guess step two, or the number two, would be believe in yourself. And I mean, in a factor of, obviously, like with this brand and such, if if we're having talks where like, all these people are saying there's nothing there, then of course, you got to have
Yeah.
some reality.
Well,
Um,
what's his name?
but
Mr. Wonderful on the
yeah,
Shark Tank always says, sometimes you just need to drag it out back by the shed and shoot it. Sometimes a
right.
business is just a shitty business, but
Yeah.
yours isn't that. I mean,
Well, thank you.
your problem in your business is just that it's so many things, and which is great if you're a gazillionaire, but if you're trying to create a business that'll eventually generate revenue, you
Yeah.
have to figure out what part of it is going to generate what revenue and then start to focus on that at some point,
Especially when
obviously,
you
right?
when you have no revenue to support
Yeah,
that at the moment.
exactly,
So there's
exactly,
that too.
exactly.
But
Yeah.
yeah, that I think that would be step 2, is that, you know, y don't fear what's ahead. You have to dive in. I had
Well, and by
somebody
the
the
way,
other.
people are throwing snowballs and shit at you and saying you're stupid and what
Yes.
you're doing is wrong and it'll never
Yes.
work. And,
Yes.
God, why don't you just go work and get a job and do all, and it's family, it's friends, it's coworkers, it's, it's everyone who's
Yep.
constantly going to tell you that.
Yep.
Yeah.
But again, just like everybody else, I mean, go back to Thomas Edison. Thomas Edison. I can't remember if it was Tesla or Edison, but the same idea. Like they both were together, and the light bulb. You know, it kept never working, and until they made it work, and then as soon as it worked, all of a sudden it was like, oh wow. Well, it's
Yeah.
the same idea. and
Yeah.
and you have to, those people who push through, just like Brianna as a hero, or all these different
Yeah. Yeah.
actions that are heroes, are the people who've pushed through to do something
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
wasn't normal. So that would
No,
be number
we're
2.
crazy risk takers. I mean,
Yeah.
look at friggin' Richard Branson a couple days ago flew in his own spaceship.
Right. Right.
That's called believing. Like I'm flying in a
Yep.
spaceship that's never really been into outer space, but I'm
Yep.
gonna go up there. I'm gonna be one of the first people in it. So,
But, I mean,
good on him.
that's the same thing with life, though. I mean, if you literally, every action you take is gonna have a risk.
Yeah,
I mean,
no, I agree.
look at
I
us
agree.
in the roadie industry. I mean, we're
Yeah,
hanging stuff above people's heads. When somebody flipped that motor over, out of a car, the oh, sorry.
yeah. Let's not talk about that because now you're liable.
Oh, yeah,
What's
well,
number three?
number 3 would be,
And I know you had no time to rehearse this because I just tossed it
yeah.
at you, but
Yeah. Um, number 3. Ooh, number 3 is a tough one. Um, I mean, I guess consistency, keep going. Just because you
yeah,
failed a few
yeah.
times,
Don't quit.
if
Don't
you
quit.
see if you can see it, it's there, just obviously don't be doing the same action every single time.
Yeah,
Um, but,
yeah.
keep going. If you can, you'll make it, you'll find it.
I
Um,
completely agree with you.
yeah.
Never, never, never quit.
Yep.
And it's hard. I mean, believe me, last year for me in my own company was, hey, you could hoard whatever cash you've got left and just sit back and try and ride this thing out, or you can pivot, change your business and invest so that you come out of this thing a better company than you went into it. And that's what
Yep.
we did. And it was hard as hell. I mean, I had to go full all in with everything I had and everything I didn't have and whatever. And it was a rough year, believe me, but hey,
Yeah.
we're kicking ass now. So, you know, I, Nick, you have such an incredible story. You're such a great dude. You're
Thank you.
such a positive guy. Occasionally you're not, but that's okay. As
Hey,
long as that's just on a phone call with me, we're okay. I don't mind that bit, but you're such an incredible guy. And, I appreciate everything you've been through.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate the fact that you're still doing it. I love your brand. I hope that anyone listening goes to chooseyouratitude.com and whether or
Thank
not
you.
you buy a t-shirt, just read his story, watch his videos. The guy's an inspiration. He really is. It's such a great
Appreciate it.
brand and such a good dude. And you go back out on tour soon, right? When?
I leave Saturday, back on D&B, and I'm just I it my I have a counter on my phone, and Saturday will be 495 days. Who's counting?
Wow. Yeah. God
um,
bless, man.
oh,
That's
geez.
so amazing.
And by all means, I'm
And guess what? I
thankful.
actually get to
Yeah.
meet you in person
Yes.
on
Right.
DMB in West Palm
Right.
Beach here in a couple of
Yeah.
weeks. So I'm really looking forward to that. I'm pretty excited about it. So yeah.
Likewise. Yeah, for
Well,
sure.
thanks for sharing some time with us here, buddy.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate it so much. I think, again, you're an inspiration. Your message is amazing and your
Thank
brand
you.
is cool. And so keep going, man.
I appreciate it.
Rock
Thank
on.
you so much.